97% of women have brutal, violent voices in their heads towards themselves about their bodies every single day. 5% of weight loss strategies are sustainable. About 50% of the women gain weight after a certain amount of time after dieting, gain weight more than they had started. About 45% don't make any change at all. The diet industry, the weight loss industry, needs serious transformation, revolution, I would say. Now, what needs to change? What should be so radically and fundamentally changed? It's shame. It's objectification, which is a form of shaming. The objectification of the body, looking at it as a problem, as an error, as something to be corrected, as something to be fixed, without the humanizing experiences and stories, is fundamentally wrong and is in the underpinnings of almost all strategies. Consider a story of a woman in my new book, You Can't Judge a Body by Its Cover, who said to me she had gone through some traumatic experiences, violences, sexual violences to her as a child, and then later on as an adult had those re-triggered by the treatment of certain men. When I asked her questions about it, she said she started to feel numb in her hands. When I tried to help her get more in touch with her power, she said she got more numb. Her legs, her hands now numb. I asked her what would make her feel more comfortable, what would make her feel safer. And she said, I would go into bed and under the covers. I said, would you be wearing clothes under those covers? She said, I would put on sweatpants and a sweatshirt. I said, how does it feel when you imagine being in that sweatshirt and sweatpants? She said, it's not enough. How many more pairs would you want to put on? 2 or 3? Her body, intelligence, creating safety by padding itself layer after layer after layer. If we try to help her lose weight, without considering the intelligence that her body has in it, the story that doesn't objectify but subjectifies. It says you're a human being, a subjective experience with longings, needs for safety. Your body is manifesting that. If I don't understand that story, I put her on a weight loss program as if she has no story, as if her body size and weight is merely a number, an objectification of herself without story. Story subjectifies, brings life back and understanding back. Any diet strategy must consider her safety. Or consider a woman who said to me that she loves to eat hamburgers. I asked her more about the hamburgers. What did she do to go on a diet? She said, I tried to eat the hamburger patty without the bun, without the cheese, without the trimmings of a hamburger. And then what happens, I asked. She says, I then later on that night, after lunch when I had my patty, go out and get a real hamburger. What kind of diet strategy is that? I try to eliminate everything I can except for the bare essentials. I say, let's have a dialogue. I want you to fight for, argue for a hamburger as you want it. And I'm going to tell you you should have no cheese, no mayonnaise, no ketchup, no bun. Why would I do that? She says, because that's what's happening inside of you. That's the living, subjective story. Something says, I want a hamburger and it looks like this. And something says, no, eliminate it. Let's inquire into her internal story, her internal interiority, so that we can understand, so we can turn her into a subject. I say you should eliminate the bun. She says, you can't. The bun is a perfect round thing. It makes the perfect sandwich. Can't you live without the mayonnaise? The mayonnaise mixes with the ketchup, she says, and forms this perfect sauce. Do you have to have the bacon? Do you have to have the tomatoes? She said, oh, those things mixed together, they need them. This is what makes a hamburger, she says. I said, do you need to have everything? Can't you eliminate it something? Her eyes get teary. She says, I never get exactly what I want. I never reach for exactly what I want. If we objectify her, hamburgers are not so good for you, limit them, don't eat them without the bun. But if we subjectify her, take away the shame of something wrong with you, we learn something about who she is as a person. Her humanity gets revealed. She tells us, I live in a world where I'm constantly cutting myself off. I'm constantly sacrificing. I'm constantly getting along with other people, doing what they need to do. I don't reach for what I really want. I don't go for what I really want. She starts telling me about who she is, her inside story, the way she lives. If I miss that, I objectify her, and I don't understand what eventually became a program for her. Her program was to accommodate less. In relationship, especially, that happened for her. It didn't have to do with exercise. It didn't have to do with food. Fundamentally, at least at the beginning, it had to do with her accommodating nature and something of her that reaches out for all that she wants, the best of her, not the worst of her. Consider another story about safety. It was an African American woman. I asked her, not about her hunger this time, but about her body size and shape. She said she wishes she could get smaller, but doesn't. She tries, it doesn't work. I said, what's it like to be in a larger body? She said, what do you mean? Why did she say, what do you mean? Because she's never been asked what it's like. She's never been asked her subjective experience. It's all a shaming, objectifying. What's wrong with you? You should be different. Let's compare you to other women. Let's compare you to some model or ideal you have in your head. Maybe that's healthy. Maybe that's come from media. Maybe that's come from white America's view of the size of a body and what a woman's body should look like. Probably all of those. I say, what's it like? I said, show me. Show me with your hands what it would be like to have a larger body, what your body does. And she takes her hands like this, and she makes some round motion. She said, my body is more like this. It's more round, and it comes out like this. That's her experience. This is her subjective experience she's showing me. As she takes her hands like that, I said, can I touch one of your hands? She says, yes. I take one of my hands and I push it against one of those hands that's showing, that's manifesting metaphorically her body size and shape. I push against that and she pushes back. That's interesting. I push, she pushes back. It's quite strong there. I said, what are you doing? She said, I'm creating a moat so you can't get in. You can't push past that. I said, tell me about the need for this kind of boundary, this kind of barrier. She said, let me tell you what it's like living as a black woman in the world. Now I have a caveat. Not all black women would have this experience, but some and many will resonate. She said, it's not safe to go out in the world. It's not safe to be myself. It's not safe to use my voice. It's not safe to bring my personality. It's not even safe to bring the love I have inside of me out in the ways I would. I have to think more about this barrier, this boundary. What should I say? What should I not say? How should I not show certain feelings, certain hostilities when I'm mistreated? I need some of that. If I objectify her, what would you like to move from? She says a size 20 to maybe a 16 or size 12 is what she says. Maybe even smaller. She smiles. Maybe even that could happen. But listen to her subjective experience, not the shamed one. You ought to be able to do that. And why can't you? But what is your actual experience? She says, if you want to know me and my body, you have to understand what it's like for me as a black woman walking around in the world and needing certain boundaries. If you don't understand that, you'll never get me. If she wants to lose weight, and I'm not convinced she should, and I think she decided not to, then I need to understand the safety needs. I need to care about that as a witness to her experience. I think of another woman that I worked with. I asked her what it was like being her larger size. She said she tried to lose weight for decades. Over time, many different programs. She said, it's awful being inside of me. Every morning I wake up, I look at myself. I get on the scale, I measure myself. I feel awful. She said, my esteem goes up and down with the scale. Some of you will relate to that. I put on certain clothes. Ooh, those are the wrong clothes. How could you go out in certain clothes like that? She thinks. I said, could you show me what your interior experience is like? Your inner dialogue is like? Because I want to know her experience, her subjective experience, what the humanity for her looks like as being a woman in her body. I said, imagine I were you, and you were that voice inside of me. And I woke up in the morning, she'd say, look at you, look at the weight, you gained 1.5 pounds, you shouldn't have had ice cream last night. And then I go, what happens if I put on this clothes? You can't walk out of the house like that. That's disgusting. That's ugly. I said, you must really dislike me. No one's going to like you. No one's going to love you. Listen to the painfulness of what's going on inside her. When you look like that, no one's going to respect you. She's catching some truth of what happens in the world. She's internalized a voice, a viewpoint of herself. She's internalized oppression. She's internalized sexism. That's part of her experience of her body. I said to her, let me be that critical voice, and you be you again. We're going to switch. I'm going to begin to criticize you the tiniest little bit. See what happens to you. Take care to notice what it's like for you when I begin to criticize. I say, how could you get on that scale? Look at you. I only have to say a little bit. Her body gets tight. I say, show me the tightness. She puts up her fist like that. I say, I'm about to say something. She says, don't you dare. I just want to say one thing. She says, I'm not going to take it from you anymore. And she wants to wrestle with me. She fights back strongly. She says to me, I quote, I'm a grown-ass woman. I don't have to listen to what anybody has to say about who I am and how I should look. That's her power. Now, if I objectify her, I think, oh, she's resisting her diet program. She's pushing back against the viewpoint that would lead her to diet. Yes, you're too heavy. I should go diet. But she fights against that. She resists that. She could look like she's sabotaging her diet program, her weight loss program, because she's resisting a viewpoint that motivates her, a viewpoint that injures, a viewpoint that shames, a viewpoint that represents a patriarchal gaze of her body, objectifying her body as a woman. She pushes back against that weight loss program. She tries to lose weight and something says, I won't take it. But she doesn't know that yet. In all these situations, to learn about these women means to not objectify. You should lose weight. Here's your program. Here's your goal. You're making it. You're not making it. And we know those don't work. Only 5% of the time they work. We know they injure and add more shame. We know the whole diet industry, a $70 billion industry, needs total transformation at the root. What's at the root? Objectification and shame. Look at your body, measure it. What's wrong with you that you can't do it? The essence of shame. What's wrong with you? Not what's right with you, not what's right about your need for protection, not what's right about you as a woman of color needing boundaries, not what's right about your pushback against the internalized oppression, not what's right about your hungers that long for so much more than a hamburger, but long for certain things in life, to be a certain person, to live an authentic path, not what's right about all that what's inside of you, the subjective experience, the self-loving witnessing that becomes an understanding of yourself. But what's wrong with you? Changing that changes the shape, the size of the diet industry, makes it into a self-loving, subjectifying, understanding, compassionate, witnessing paradigm. We need that. If you're interested in this, check out my book, You Can't Judge a Body by a Cover, 17 Women's Stories of Hunger, Body, Shame, and Redemption. Or come to my website and find out about some of my programs. Thank you for your ears. Bye.